Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Awaken to Your Soul Path. I am your host, Barbara, and today I am joined by the beautiful Abigail Rebecca. And Abigail is a visibility goddess. And today we're in for a very special treat because today we are going to talk about healing the witch wound. And I have to be honest, I didn't even know that there was a witch wound. So I'm really looking forward to discovering more about it and, of course, what it means and what you can do about it. So thank you for agreeing to be on my show today, Abigail, and it's a pleasure having you today.
Thank you so much, Barbara. I'm really looking forward to this.
Likewise. So to jump right in, what is the witch's wound?
Well, it's something that I only really discovered a few years ago. I realized that as a visibility coach predominantly, obviously you've mentioned that I don't know if I mentioned already, but I work with human design. I work with entrepreneurial women who want to be more visible within their business. And I noticed more and more I was really attracting very smart, intelligent, savvy women who were, to put it for want of a better word, in the spiritual closet. So they had these incredible healing powers. They were very spiritual. They had different beliefs. But they were hiding it all inside of themselves because they were so worried about being judged and being criticized. A lot of the clients that I work with come from a corporate background. So it's almost like they're, in their corporate role and people see them as this corporate person. And then they're kind of leaving and creating and forging their own path and building their own business empire and have these incredible, healing powers and tools and different beliefs, but they weren't sharing it because they were worried about other people judging and criticizing them. And I thought, gosh, this is showing up a lot. And it happened with me as well, right? So I remember when I first left corporate, I had a vision board. I mean, it's just something simple as a vision board. I used to hide it from my cleaner because I was so worried that she'd think that I was a bit weird because I had a vision board. And I was like, I used to do this as well. And then I started to look more into, what it means to have a witch wound. And really what it is, I mean, we can go really deep into it and we can talk about the witch trials, but what it is there's a lot of women like you and I out there that really are very powerful, but we're kind of keeping it contained and we're dulling our powers and not speaking up and not being visible because we're worried that people will have a negative impression about us. So we're basically dumbing down our superpowers as women. And I'm not talking about magic, like witch magic. I'm just talking about our innate, incredible powers of women that we have actually kept down, the last couple of thousand years, really, while we've been in the patriarchy. So that's what witch wounds are.
I think the things that I call your authentic superpowers or your natural born talents, your natural born gifts. And if I understand you correctly, the people that have a witch wound are then suppressing that because of the things that happened ages ago in the witching trials. Is that where it originates?
Yeah, there's a lot of ancestral trauma that has come through the female line. Actually, it was men and women that were affected by the witch trials. I think a lot of people don't actually realize that men were also persecuted for being witches, but around 80% of it was for women. So if we look at sort of, if we believe in past lives, then in past lives, we might have been involved in it. We might have witnessed it. We might have been the persecutors. So there's a lot of trauma that comes through that. If we don't believe in reincarnation and past lives, well, that trauma is just anyway naturally carried through, the lineage, and it is kind of inherited by each generation. So I think there's a lot of trauma that we carry and a lot of fear that we carry from women around, I can't be too visible because if I'm too visible, bad things will happen to me, and it might not necessarily, even though in a lot of countries still, if women are visible, then, you know, potentially something horrific might happen to them.
Yeah.
But if we look in, you know, if we look in countries where that is no longer happening in that way, there's still, I feel like, a traumatic response and a fear of being cast aside, being thrown out of the tribe, not belonging, not fitting in with the tribe, which is it's a natural fear anyway. Because when we did live in tribes and we were thrown out of the community and thrown out of the tribe, we'd die because we didn't have protection, we didn't have food, we didn't have warmth from the fire. So it's a significant fear that still lives in every single one of us. But I think from women, you know, it almost feels like we have to kind of like dim ourselves down, tone ourselves down. We can't be authentically real. We can't speak our truth because we're worried about being judged and criticized and cast out.
And so you already mentioned a couple of ways in which it shows up, fear of being visible, fear of being authentic. Are there more ways in which the witch wound can show up in someone's life?
Yeah, there's lots of ways. I mean, the things that I've certainly witnessed, you know, speaking for myself as well as lots of clients that I've worked with, I think there can be a real disconnect from our bodies and our intuition. So we don't trust ourselves. We don't trust ourselves to make decisions. We don't trust our intuition. So we're straight away, that's why I love human design so much, right? Because it teaches us to drop into our body instead of making decisions with our heads. There can be a real fear and distrust of authority, especially powerful and authoritative men. So that can also sort of show up like being very distrustful of people. And I think also, you know, almost linked into that, not trusting our intuition and our own sort of inner feminine power and wisdom, also almost like giving our power away to others. So acting and behaving in certain ways, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, giving our power away to others, really not standing in our own sovereignty. You know, it's a big thing. So, you know, we can be doing this consciously or unconsciously. I think it's really important that every single one of us understands that this could very well be a wound that we all carry. I mean, I would say that we all carry it, whether we recognize it or not. There is definitely a theme that I feel very often in women, that we can't stand up and be seen and speak our truth in our own authentic way. And it's really when we do the inner work and we, you know, we do this work and, you know, personal development and the healing and, you know, the real sort of like all the work that brings us on our true path to ourselves and our self-love, that's when it starts to be healed, to heal. But it's an ongoing process. It's a big wound to be healed.
Definitely. And I think I recognize it. It can be, I think clients that come from corporate life that are having trouble with authority or with management, but also feeling like there needs to be more out there for them, that they are being or are holding themselves back or being held back, or that there's something that they should be doing or will they need to be fulfilling, which they are not. But I can also see that it would have a great effect on entrepreneurs, of course. If you have trouble being visible, but it can also show up, I think, as imposter syndrome. You're pretending to be someone else and feeling like who you really are is not good enough. Maybe indeed the not good enough or not feeling worthy types of fears could come from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all those fears are, and also comparing yourself to other people. You know, I need to be more like they are to be successful, and that happens a lot in corporate, right? I come from a real long corporate background, and it was almost like I have to behave like that person over there in order to be successful. So then you've just got a load of clones of that person over there who are all kind of climbing the corporate ladder and creating success. but just become completely burnt out and disenchanted and miserable and ill, and all the things that come from working too hard and really masking, like being someone that we're not living our lives authentically. But then in the entrepreneurial world, I was very, I've got lots of stories that I share about when I first started 7 years ago now, my business. And there was I didn't feel good enough because I was comparing myself to other people, especially other women, other entrepreneurial women, thinking, well, they're better than, why are they more successful than I am? Why do they have more clients than I do? Why are they making more sales than I do? And beating myself up and feeling bad. Well, that's because I wasn't honoring my true authentic self.
Yes.
So there was still a lot of wounds there. Like I felt like I can't be myself, because I'm gonna get burnt at the stake if I'm myself. So I'm going to be like this person over there. I'm going to be like that person over there, which again led to multiple burnouts. So the trauma is real, and knowledge is power. And I think if we're aware of this and we're equipped with this, we can not only look out for it with ourselves, but also with our sisters, right? We have each other's backs. We can recognize the signs.
Exactly. And I never knew that it was called this way, but I do recognize it. And it's also, as an entrepreneur, when you don't trust in finding your way, but sometimes they call it shiny object syndrome, but I think it also comes from this unrest deep inside that you want to be successful, but that you're trying to copy everybody else that seems successful in the hopes of making you successful as well. And then feeling very disappointed in yourself when you invest a shitload of money into a Tony Robbins or a Dean Graziosi or whatever guru out there that tries to teach you their methods that are just not working for you, because you haven't tapped into your authentic power yet and stepped into who you really are and discovered your ways and your methods and are showing them to the outside world within your business to attract your clients.
Yeah, been there, done that. I'm sure a lot of people that are watching this have been there, done that, spent thousands and thousands of dollars working with coaches and coaching programs, which, have the best intention, absolutely the best intention. But I was being taught a method that was completely going against my natural energies and my authentic self. And it's like you say, you're being taught a process that worked for them. Well, everyone's completely different.
Exactly.
So there can't be like, so when I talk about visibility, I'm like, well, when you come work with me, I'm not going to teach you how I became visible, because that's completely different to how you're going to be visible, because you and I are not the same.
I love what you're saying that. I teach people how to be their authentic self, how to take away all the masks and strip everything down to who they really are. And I also help them to then take the newfound knowledge about themselves and create a business for themselves. But indeed, I don't teach them how I did it or the methods that I'm using. I help them to discover their things, their methods, their ways. So I think that is a very important process, especially for more sensitive people, the highly sensitive people, the empaths, the intuitives, the spiritual people. Most other people, the 80% of the world, are very different from how we are, and their methods will not work for us, no matter how much they promise it or how much we might want them to. It's not how it works. And it's, I think, indeed all about discovering how it works for you and what your ways are, your gifts are, and how to use them to your benefit.
Yeah, we're so aligned with that, Barbara. I think that's one of the reasons why, I discovered human design about 6 years ago now, and I started to really incorporate it seriously into my business about 4 years ago. And I don't really agree with any method that kind of puts you in a box, that says you're this person, therefore, like you've just said, everyone's different. But human design is known, it's called the science of differentiation. And why it's called that is because it really shows you how you are different to everyone else, how your energy is different. So therefore, how you build relationships, the best way that you work, the best way that you can go out there and be visible. And this cookie cutter approach doesn't work. It really doesn't. And it's $1 million industry, a multi-billion dollar industry that is built on organizations, again, you know, like with the best intent in the world, but they are teaching a process that has worked for one person, and then they teach it multiple times, and it will work for some people, but a lot of people like it won't work for.
Exactly.
So it's not, none of this, I don't think any of this is a one size fits all strategy. And it's music to my ears when you share that with me. You know,
because I also dive into human design, but also gene keys at the same time. Human design is the yang and the gene keys are the yin, and it goes beyond this talk to explain what it is. But if you are watching or listening and you want to know more about it, either reach out to me or to Abigail. We would love to talk to you about it. But I don't think it teaches you how to be different. I think it shows you how you are unique. How you are unique and what you need in your unique abilities to be visible. And since I started working with human design and gene keys, I discovered that the way I was going about my business and the way I was putting it in the world, or trying to put it into the world, was not in line with who I really am, and that I was meant for something different, and that a different type of business goes with my mission or my purpose in life. And since discovering that, and since shifting within my business and going in that direction, it has made a huge positive impact on my business. So I love that we are aligned in that area as well.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Right. But then, of course, I can imagine that when people are listening or watching, their question would be, but how do I recognize my wound? And more importantly, maybe, how do I heal from it?
How do you what? Sorry, from it?
Heal.
Oh, yield from it.
Heal, like healing.
Oh, heal from, oh, sorry. Sorry. I've got jet lag, by the way.
No worries.
I'm gonna blame that on everything. I've got jet lag. I'm gonna blame that on everything the next few days. I think, you know, we've covered a lot about how to recognize it. I think, you know, if you are dependent on what kind of area, what business you are, and whether you're watching this, you know, whether you're in corporate or whether you're running your own business, or, you know, whatever path you're going down, I think any kind of resistance that you might be having to either not showing up fully, and you'll know, you know, one of the phrases that I use a lot, that my clients repeat back to me actually, is one of the phrases that I use a lot is hiding in plain sight. And what I mean by that, and relating it to visibility, is that, you know, you can pretend to be visible, you can pretend to be out there, you can pretend to be seen, but actually, are you limiting yourself? Are there still things that you're hiding? And are this, like, literally, are you playing full out? So are you sitting on the sidelines, or are you playing on the courts? Because there's a big difference there. So if you're feeling any kind of resistance, it's really understanding where that's coming from, and, you know, like really understanding the origin stories, like following the dots back to where that comes from. And more often than not, it is related to some kind of like event that you might have consciously experienced when you were younger, or maybe you might have experienced it in a former life, if you are believing that and you're prepared to go there, or maybe something that has been kind of come down the ancestral line, that maybe energetically you've picked it from your mother, who they've picked it from their mother, and they've picked it from their mother, because that does happen all the time. So it's really pinpointing that, and then looking at, okay, how can I heal it? One of the things actually that I was just thinking about, Barbara, when we were speaking before, and especially when it comes to that, like, I'm doing this much, and I know I really want to kind of go there, but I'm afraid to. one of the things that I do notice with a lot of women who have who are very gifted, who have incredible feminine powers, that are very spiritual, is they'll try and dumb it down. So they'll kind of like go out there and talk about it, but then they'll try and still fit into the mainstream so they're accepted, you know, and the terminology. Now, I might offend some people saying this, but, you know, like, for example, I see a lot of incredibly very powerful, intelligent women calling themselves woo-woo. And I'm like, what? Like, what you're why are you calling yourself that? Because it's almost like you're, oh, but it's, you know, it's like you're diminishing the power, you're taking your power away. You're an incredibly powerful woman, but then you're kind of diminishing it by using a term that's kind of, well, I'm still nice, you know. So whatever terminology, whatever words that you're using for yourself, if you are kind of taking your power away, then stop it. Yeah. Because it's so important for us now to stand up. You know, we're in a new paradigm. We're breaking out of patriarchy, restrictions. You know, we're coming into this Aquarian age where our feminine leadership style and power is very, very much needed, and we need to stand up and make a difference. We need to support one another. We need to be, you know, championing one another, and we need to be standing up and being authentic. And seriously, if there is anything that is holding you back from really going there, now is the time to heal it, you know, very gently, with care and self-love and self-nurture, but heal it so that we can stand up and we can make a difference, because we can only make a difference when we raise together and our voices join together. So we really need to be supporting one another in this healing journey.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I've seen it in various forms within my business also. Here in the Netherlands, we love using diminutives, and then we basically make something small. So instead of saying I have a business or I am a business owner, a lot of women here tend to see, well, I have a little side business. Instead of owning that it's a full-time business. And when you say I have a little side business, and for the Netherlands it's one word, so in English it doesn't really sound that way, but in Dutch it's diminishing your business. It's making it sound like you have a hobby that you sometimes earn money with, instead of owning I am a business owner and I have a business and I am here to make an impact on people, and owning that. But it can also be that I see that with a lot of other people that come my way, is that, for instance, their posts on social media are always quotes made by other people and they don't really write anything about it. Or sometimes they think they are sharing their story, but there was a time where storytelling and story sharing was really in. And I could see, oh, you also did Ted McGrath's course on storytelling, or someone else's, because it always followed the same path, the same ups, the same downs, the same structure. And then it also doesn't feel authentic, even though you think that you're sharing your story, but you're not sharing it in an authentic way. You're sharing it in a learned trick method kind of way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. The difference between I have a little business, and actually I'm CEO of my business, and this is what we're standing for. Like, the difference in energy, like you can just feel it, like just you talking about it there, you can feel the energy. And I think the more of us that can really step in, and I'm sure that, you know, we're all guilty of that, of, you know, making ourselves small in order not to offend other people, or, you know, we still want to be friends with that person over there, but actually fully stepping into it and owning it, and not being afraid of the consequences of the fallout. You know, your passion, your vision, your purpose is a lot bigger than, you know, anything else. The more that we can do that, the more powerful we are. It's a big mission, and it's a big vision, But I think having conversations like this and highlighting it is such a great step forward, right? Because I'll look at conversations like this and I'll be like, oh yeah, I do that. Oh yeah.
Like I said, I didn't know it was called this way, but when you started to describe it, I did recognize it both within myself and in my past, but also within my clients. So I think these talks are really valuable, at least for people that they can name stuff. And I agree with you. I don't like boxes. I don't like labels, but I see them as little puzzle pieces. And every piece of information tells me something about myself. And if I discover that I have these types of behaviors and it's called witch wound, then at least I've identified something that's blocking me or stopping me from being where I want, living the life I want, having the clients I want, leading the business I want as a CEO. And that gives me a starting point where I can start looking for things. And we all know that the fastest way to break through limiting beliefs, to healing wounds, is to have a guide, a mentor, a coach, or however you want to call someone that helps you move along your path. But there sometimes are also things that we can already do ourselves. Is that also the case with the witch's wound? Are there things that we can already do ourselves besides planning a call with you or me and diving into deeper?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that you've mentioned is human design and gene keys. And what I love about human design and gene keys is that it's free. Like you can go and you can find out about it. So I definitely encourage anyone that really wants to at least know what kind of type they are to go and find that out. And then, as you said before, if they want to explore further and they want it to be related to visibility, authenticity, stepping into their sovereignty, building a business off the back of it, then that's when they have a conversation with you and I. But I think definitely really like understanding and recognizing your true self, really understanding, like you can very easily, I think, on your own sort of trace back, well, where did that fear come from? So for example, I love to work with coaches. I have mentors. I can't build my business on my own. And I have an incredible community around me also that support me, some wonderful sisters in masterminds, etc. But one of the blocks and the wounds that and it was a witch wound actually, that I discovered by myself was this real deep fear of rejection that I had when I first started my business. It really stopped me from really going there and like asking for things aligned to my own energy in my own way, but asking for things, because I was so worried about being rejected. And I kind of traced things back and just thought, well, where was I rejected when I was a child? Well, I was brought up as a Jehovah's Witness. I was brought up as a Jehovah's Witness. I was born into as a third generation Jehovah's Witness. So it was very, the culture was very embedded in my family. And I left when I was 16 and I traveled the world, and, a lot of healing came from that. But we used to get our doors knocked, doors shut in our faces all the time, because my parents used to take me door knocking. And it was normally on a Sunday morning when people were having their breakfast and just get out of bed, and we used to get our doors slammed in our face and being told to, get lost and all of that. And I was a child. So that trauma stuck with me. And again, it was like this real fear of rejection. People are going to be angry with me. If I ask for what I want and what I need, and I, ask for things, people are going to get angry at me. They're going to shout at me. They're going to close the door on me. Now, I discovered that on my own. I've done a lot of work with different people kind of exploring that. But, I think there's lots of things that you can do just by kind of exploring things on your own as well. I also love to use EFT. It's have you ever, I'm sure you'd have done EFT, right?
I'm a practitioner, so
yeah. Of course you are. Me too. I should have just, you know what, Barbara, we're so aligned. I should have just said, you're an EFT practitioner, aren't you? Because of course you are. So you'll know the power of EFT.
Yes.
right? Now, I think it's super, super powerful when you're doing it with others, when you're doing it with someone else and you're actually in a therapy session, but you can actually do EFT on your own. Like, I'm not a big fan of flying, but yesterday when I was on my flight from Boston to Heathrow, I was tapping on myself because the captain said there was going to be turbulence, and I hate turbulence. So I was like, so, you can use that to self-soothe. If you're worried about going out and being visible, about, really sharing with someone your authentic self, do a bit of tapping. You can do it on your fingers underneath your desk as you're on a call, if you're on a sales call or something like that. So I do believe in a blended approach. I think there's we underestimate how self-healing, how we can really heal ourselves. So I think there's always an element of that. And then if you combine that with, working with others and in community and with trusted mentors and guides, then you just create a beautiful healing package for yourself.
Yes.
To be able to grow into consciousness and create whatever abundance you want to create in your life and business.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm a manifesting generator, to talk in human design terms, and I found out that it indeed means that you're a multi-potentialite, something I already found out before. What that means is that I tend to be good at a lot of things. I have a very broad interest. That's why I do so many healing modalities, like Reiki, energy healing, but also coaching, acupuncture, Ayurveda, EFT, access bars, and I can go on, because that's where my strength lies, where I am able to move towards where my clients need me the most, or which healing modality fits them the most. And a big part of what I do is I want to give people the tools that they can use themselves to keep themselves in balance. So that might not be the best business model, but I find it to be the most honest one, where I make myself not necessary anymore, because in the end of a trajectory with me, people will have these tools and these abilities like EFT, but there are more that will help you to balance yourself and heal yourself whenever you need it, because that is true power, right? When you can be your own healer or your own person that you need in that moment, like with you with the flight. If you hadn't been able to do that, there was not your coach probably that you could have called or FaceTimed or Zoomed in that moment to get you through it. So the fact that you were able to do that for yourself was hugely valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I love manifesting generators. I'm a projector, so I have a completely different energy to you. And you're like a multitasker going off and managing multiple projects, where I just have to like step back a little bit and honor my own energy and wait to be invited.
Exactly.
Wait to be recognized and invited.
Exactly. If what I also need to wait and respond, even as a manifesting generator. True manifestors can manifest on their own, but it's only 7%, I think, of the population, 8%. So not that many. Right. So most of us have different strategies. If you are listening to this, if you're watching this and you think, oh, this is hugely fascinating, but I have no clue where to start, or I don't want to have to look up all of that, you can always go to my website. I make a BU by Design blueprint, which is a combination between human design and the gene keys that will already give you a lot of the most valuable information for only 25 quid. So not that much, but hugely beneficial. And of course, like Abigail said, you can also go to the websites themselves and create your own free profile and start already there. But I can imagine that you will become so enthusiastic like we are that it will give you also a lot of questions that you would like answered. So if you've been watching this, if you've been following this and you're really liking this subject and you're liking this talk, it would be amazing if you could like it. If you have comments or questions, put them below. And if you can share it with your audience, that would be even more amazing, because you never know who you know that might need to hear the things that we've been talking about in this show. So that would be amazing. But I can also imagine that you might want to know, how can I reach Abigail? So where can people find you? How can they reach you best?
Well, the best place to reach me is at my website, which is abigailrebecca.com. And on there, you can explore ways to work with me. You can also look up your human design and look at different ways to work with me in that way. I've got a blog on there. Just explore. There's loads of information on there, and you can just take a little look and just find out a little bit more about, not just about me, but also about yourself.
I love it. If this went too fast for you, no worries. I will make sure that the links are below this episode in the show notes so that you can definitely contact Abigail if you want to find out more. Is there also something that you maybe want to give to the audience, a free giveaway or something that you have?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I have an ebook. It's called Illuminate from Within. And it really covers, if someone comes and works with me one-on-one, it really covers the first 7 things that we will go through when I first start to work with a client. There's a lot in there about human design, about personal style, about community building, about setting your vision, your purpose. It's kind of really positioned for whatever point you are within your business, but you feel that you want to be more visible, whatever your definition of visibility is. And it's not just a book that you can read, it's also a workbook. So there's lots of self-inquiry questions in there. And that is completely free of charge. And I think you're going to put the link below as well, Barbara.
Most definitely. I'm going to make sure that the link is below. And I love that. I'm a big fan of books that not only give you information, but also allow and help you to work with the information that you've been given. So thank you so much that you have this available for everybody that's watching. I want to ask you guys a question. So if you've been following along with us and if you've been watching this topic, I would love it if you could share the thing that was most eye-opening or the biggest thing that you've learned while listening to our talk today. And if you could share it below this episode, that would be amazing. I'll make sure that I respond to it personally. And I would love hearing what you thought was the most eye-opening or the most educational or the biggest thing that you've learned from watching our talk or listening to our talk here today. I would also like to thank you for being here today, for supporting this channel, for supporting all of these talks. And if you feel like you have a wonderful story that you want to share on the show, then also feel free to reach out, because I'm always looking for wonderful guests like Abigail to have these wonderful talks about, because that's who we are as people, as more energy sensitive people, highly sensitive people, empath people, however you want to call yourself. We love meaningful conversations about deep topics, and especially if they give answers to things that we previously probably didn't really fully understand about ourselves.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, then I thank you so much for being here, Abigail. I really enjoyed our talk. I look forward to the next time that our paths cross. And for now, I wish you and everybody else that's watching and listening the most amazing, wonderful day today. And I look forward to inspiring you with our next episode. Bye for now.